G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And chances are if you're watching this channel, you own a car, which means that you're going to need to maintain it. But especially if you own a European car like me, maintaining a car can prove to be quite expensive. And so today, I'm going to share a few hacks that I've learned over the years to maintain my cars well, but still affordably. First, let's begin with servicing. Naturally, every year, or possibly even slightly less if you do quite a lot of Ks, you're going to have to change the oil on your car. I like to use Castrol Edge as it is widely considered to be the best, and because I own quite a few cars, I'm always in need of some 5W30. However, Castrol Edge is also the most expensive way to buy oil. It's usually about $120 for just a little 5-litre jug like this, and of course, the moment I need it, it will be at its most expensive price. And so the first hack that I use to maintain my cars a bit cheaper is to always wait for a sale on oil and stock up on a few bottles, even if I don't need it, so that when I do need it, I have a couple of these bad boys ready to go that I only paid $70 for rather than $120. When I need new wipers, I usually get them from WiperTech because they're reasonably affordable and good quality. Otherwise, Costco has wipers for $2 if you're really on a budget. If you need to replace the coolant on your car, it's much cheaper to buy concentrate and then add your own distilled water. But distilled water from an auto parts store tends to be quite expensive. But turns out you can buy 10 litres of distilled water from your local supermarket for like $8. Another part of your car that needs a relatively frequent replacement is your pollen filter. And these are strangely expensive. I got a quote to replace this one at Honda. It was over $100. Outrageous. To avoid this cost, you can either do the cheapskate method of banging your panel filter on the ground or blowing it out with an air line to make it last a little bit longer. Otherwise, if you get a washable K&N panel filter that you can just keep reusing for the rest of the car's life, that will save you having to spend $100 every time you need one of these. And finally, get yourself a cheap OBD scanner, which is very handy for figuring out those pesky engine lights. This Integra Type S, for instance, that I restored on the channel a month ago, had an engine light come on. I plugged in my scan tool, and it told me that the knock sensor was dead. So I bought one for cheap off of Trade Me, installed it, and now it's all fixed. This scan tool saved me a lot of hassle. The only disadvantage is that when your friends find out you got one of these, they'll be bringing their crap boxes round for a weekly scan too. Another part of maintaining a car that can prove to be very expensive is tyres. Now sure, if you go out and get yourself a set of high-fly HF805s like what's on this Accord Type S, you can probably get a set of 4 for only $500. But what goes hand in hand with cheap ditch finder tyres? Why, of course, expensive ditch finding, as seen by the catastrophic understeer that this Honda Accord suffers from on these cheap rubbish tyres. If we hit the same corner in the same conditions in my Audi TT on bald Pilot Sport 4s, we find that there is no understeer to be found. So clearly spending more on Bridgestones or Michelins or Continentals is worth it, both from a handling but also a safety perspective. However, it does come with a cost. To replace the Pilot Sport 4s on my car with a brand new set of Pilot Sport 5s, look at it around $1,300 on sale. A bit of a hack that I've found to get good brand tyres for cheap is just to buy them used. A quick look on Facebook Marketplace reveals multiple sets of used 245/40 18s that I need for my TT, and all I have to do is shop around to find a set that's a decent brand, that still has a good amount of tread left and isn't too old, like this set of Pilot Sport 4s here, that with a bit of stern negotiation I could probably have them on the car for under $600, less than half what it would cost to buy a set of these brand new. Another way to make your good tyres last longer is to avoid hitting curbs and potholes that'll put your wheels out of alignment, increasing wear, and the second is to rotate your tyres. Most cars wear out the front tyres faster as they handle all of your turning. So cycling your worn down front tyres to the opposite back corner every 5,000 Ks can help to make the set last longer. Of course, this is only possible if you have a square set of tyres. If you've got a BMW with wider tyres on the back, you can only swap them left to right. Long-time viewers of the channel will know that I regularly restore cars here that need panel work. However, hardly ever have I had to take one of my cars to the paint shop, as I've learned that there are far more affordable ways to fix light damage on a car. The first method is to try buffing out scratches. More often than not, most scrapes look worse than they really are because the paint of the pole or fence that was hit transfers onto the car. A quick buff or a light swipe of paint thinners can usually break this down and remove it again, revealing the perfectly intact paint underneath. If the scrape has gone through the factory paint though, then then you can try using some touch-up paint. These can be bought for 10 or 20 bucks, and while never as good as a proper respray, on a cheap car in fairly inconspicuous places, they can make a world of a difference. Otherwise, if the damage is quite severe, you can usually just replace the whole panel with a used one for much cheaper than painting the original. If your front bumper, say, is cracked or has paint fade, it'll likely cost over $400 to get it repaired and painted. But if you shop around your local wreckers, you should be able to find a used bumper in better condition for around $100. Now again, this only works if you have a common car in a common colour. But so far, with everything from Hondas to BMWs that I've restored on the channel, I've had no trouble finding the correct panels in the correct colour that just bolt right on and significantly improve the exterior condition. And finally, the biggest way to save money maintaining your car is to avoid dealerships wherever possible and just have a go yourself. When the timing chain guides failed on my mate's BMW 740i, we could have taken it to a dealer and spent $5 getting them replaced, but instead we parked it up indoors, watched a couple of YouTube videos showing how to do it, bought the parts online for 700 bucks, and in just a couple of days we had the car all back together and running smoothly. I managed to rebuild the whole front end of my crashed Audi S5 with mostly used parts just by having a go, which left the final cost of repairs at just $4,300. By contrast, someone I know with a red RS5, a very similar car that got into a similar accident, was quoted over $30,000 by a panel shop. I also fully rebuilt the intake flap on my Audi S4 recently. I've rebuilt the cooling system on E46s and E90s a couple of times. I've replaced wheel bearings on multiple cars and replaced dozens of interior and exterior panels on everything from a Honda Jazz to a Subaru BRZ. And I'm certainly no mechanic. I just give it a bash and follow videos online when I get stuck, and so far I haven't had any problems. That said, there are some jobs that require special tools that I haven't been able to do. And for stuff like that, I've found the cheapest way to do it is to buy the parts yourself to avoid markups, and then just pay the labour for a mechanic to install it for you. And so with that, I hope that I've given you a few tips that you can use to maintain your cars more affordably, and I also hope that I've given you the confidence to have a go at fixing your car yourself. If I can do it, then so can you. And with that, I will look forward to seeing you again next time.